Hello and welcome to another day of me playing around with React components. So first things first, I'm just gonna start up Storybook. Um, okay, we have a terminal there already. And Storybook, and let's see. All this while, I have just looked at the basic button state, and I think I'm mostly done with that. Next step is I want to compare my implementation of the basic button states with Shopify's implementation. GitHub, there we go. Just gonna bookmark that. Cool. Let's go to source, components, basic button. Oh, our local storybook is up. Okay, now let's see how they've implemented the aspects of the basic button state that we've implemented. Something I realized yesterday was I want to be able to pass props to my button, like generic props to my button, and I didn't cater for that in my implementation. What I mean by that is all these handlers on blow and context menu, I want to be able to override them. If not override them, okay, well, I guess I don't. The only thing I want to be able to pass here is the on-click, so that users of the button can define what they want to do. So basically, on-click, something like that. And that is is that a type? No, we don't want that. So that's a function that returns. That's going to be a function that returns void. And I think TypeScript can help us out here. So we want to define the type of this function. And that should work. Function of type. What am I doing wrong here? Okay. Expected. I can't do that. Oh. Okay, I'm stuck. That's surprising. Um, how do you say you want to take a function of a certain type in TypeScript? I mean, I thought I could do something that expects something like that that returns void. It's telling us that expression expected. It's telling us property of signature expected. Hmm. I don't know why we can't do this in here. Okay, let's look. I guess so. Oh, oh, in the type space, you do that. Okay, subtle difference. Um, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Or can we specifically say on click event? Or can we just say on click button event handler? Doesn't exist. Let's see, on click. Handle click. That's all. Let's just give it an empty function. And then let's see, what can this thing be? Give me a sec. If I try to do something like event, oh, it doesn't complain. Oh yeah, it complains. Cool. Mouse events. There we go. So mouse events. This is probably a mouse event handler. And then we can remove that. And so we can just say mouse event handler. And we can remove all of that. Okay, so yeah, that's what I wanted to make sure you could do. Oh, we haven't actually passed it. So when it's available, on click, I was hoping we'll just be able to do that. So on click, there we go. So now users can pass in a custom on click function. Cool, so that was something I forgot to do. Let's remove the imports that we don't need, and let's look at how they've implemented this button in terms of the basic button states in the Polaris repo. So first things first, the thing we're returning at the end of the day, I think it's this here. We're returning some connected disclosure markup. If it exists, we're returning some div with that disclosure markup. Otherwise, we're returning button markup. I'm just gonna. I was hoping GitHub would be smart enough to. I thought you could actually already look at like definitions. Okay, so button markup, that's where it's defined. Let's just look at the definition of this thing first of all. Let's see what they are taking. They are able to take children. Are they taking an on-click handler, they are not taking an on-click handler. That's interesting. But they are extending common interface. This interface is button props. This extends some base button and adds this. So I imagine base button, then you have common button props extending. Now they're picking only these from button props. What are they doing here? They're choosing only these properties from the button props interface here. Interface common button props extends pick from button props, all of this. Why did they do it that way though? Why first of all extend base button and then add all these things and then narrow that down in common button props by picking just these properties? By the way, when we look at the properties that they're picking, ID doesn't exist, accessibility label doesn't exist, area described by, nope, role, and so on and so forth. So yeah, they're picking from base button, but since button props already extends base button, they're picking from button props, and they're adding on class name and on mouse up. Okay. What else? Type link button props. Pick from button props. Oh, link button props, URL XML download. Okay, so they're kind of just segmenting things. They have this really broad type, and then common button props, link button props, action button props. And then the button itself, here's the, yes, it does take an on-click, as we can see here. And it does take children. So to some degree, what I've implemented is looking a bit similar. And yeah, let's see how they are using the on-click specifically before we look at how they're using children. And I'm just going to do a Control F for that. So they're using it in only 4 locations. They toggle disclosure active. That's fascinating. Where else are they using it? Common props of type. Gets the value. And how are they using common props? They're passing all of those props to this thing they've called the unstyled button, and they must be returning some super component of the unstyled button, something that's composed of the unstyled button. Yeah, button markup. So they are returning button markup in some form. So in some path of this component, they are taking an on-click prop. Yes, they are bundling it up with other props, but they are still doing the fundamental thing of passing that prop through to the final component that gets returned, which is button markup. In terms of the children components, or the children prop, let's see how they're using that compared to how we've used it. So they do expect children, and they take it as a prop, and what else? They use it to set their styles. I'm gonna ignore that for now. Child markup. If they're children, then they create this child markup component essentially with the children. Otherwise, it's null. They don't have a default. So imagine if you don't pass any children, your button has no text. And where are they using child markup? My best guess, they're using it in button markup. So yep, they're using child markup in button markup. So same thing we're doing, they're in some line of this component, taking a children prop and just passing it through. Now things I'm curious about, how do they want to implement their border outline? Because that was a big theme that I focused on. In terms of how I implemented border outline, I always checked to see whether the context menu was in focus, was available. And if the context menu was there, I would set has context menu, and I used that to modify my styles. So I'd like to see how they've done it. I imagine that they would also have used on context menu in some form. So let's see. On context menu, they are not using on context menu here, but that doesn't rule out that they may be using on context menu in some. They're using it here. I'm now curious to see, can I find out how they are actually setting that border outline of blue when the context menu is open. So let's first see. It wouldn't be a prop that's passed in. I don't think they would need to do that. So it would be some handler on the actual button component. They have a span within their button. You can only have spans within buttons mostly. Spans and icons, I think. So it's the unstyle button I'm interested in. What handlers are they passing to the unstyled button? Okay, so as we can see, unstyle button itself is imported. So we're gonna go into, there must be a better way to navigate through GitHub, and I'll figure that out. But yeah, we're gonna go into unstyle button. They're importing it from two directories of components. Unstyle button. There we go. And imagine it would be that for index.js. Now on context menu, still doesn't exist here. Okay. Ignoring the interactive props, which seem to be all the typical things you'd expect, children, on click, etc. What I'm looking for are the handlers that okay. Alright, the handlers that they're giving default values to. they're not giving a default value to unkeep rest. This is the prop. Then the rest. Okay. This line of pursuing this line leads to a dead end. So I am going to I'm thinking of just working back from the CSS class to see the logic that is used to apply that. But because it is a CSS class that's been assigned, this has no CSS, and I think that's a hint to say, yeah, we shouldn't expect the border outline logic to be contained in there. So let's go back to button. I think we can just go back one more step. And let's look at the CSS itself. Styles, primary, outline. That's maybe what we're looking for. Plain, pressed. Another maybe. Full width, icon, connected, remove, underline. So I'm going to explore outline and press, but first I'll start with outline. See what the outline logic is. It's a boolean. So that's a prop that's being passed in. Press is also a prop that's being passed in. In terms of if connected disclosure, in terms of those styles, what was I just now? I was looking at some styles. In terms of those styles, they all seem to be conditional based on the props. I want to find something that's conditional based on some local state, I think. What's interesting is is there any local state we can see? Is disabled or loading? Mm-hmm. There is some local state here. What is the meaning of disclosure? What do they mean by that? I'm not sure. And then toggle disclosure active takes. Oh, there's a hook called use callback. Is that that must be I think that's a. Let's see, is it imported from React? It is. Oh my goodness. Okay, never seen that before. But I want to explore what sets disclosure to active for one, and what toggles disclosure active. So let me start with setting disclosure active. Let's see what that means. They don't use that at all. That's weird. Oh, okay. There's a. Alright. Toggle disclosure active is used. Set disclosure active is using toggle disclosure active. And then what's linked to on click toggle disclosure active. On close, on action any item. Okay. On click, on close, on action any item. I want to see the definition of this. It's just a boolean. that we this is a custom component popover. So it must be related to some concept of a disclosure that is displayed, and when the disclosure on the popover is closed or any action item is clicked, we toggle, and when the button is clicked, we toggle. Doesn't seem like what I'm looking for. Okay, if there's anything using states, any other place using states, we'll find it. There isn't, so that they are not using states to set the border outline, which okay. Alright, let's pursue the second line of investigation, which is using the working back from the CSS. Let's do this. Inspect. Focus visible, not you. The button. Focus visible. And let's okay. Let's find that color. So it may not exist as a CSS variable in this repo. Nothing. Let's see the discussions. Okay, that's too many things. 5,000 things. So let's think. What exactly am I? Border, button border. Too generic. Too many things have borders. Let me look at the style. So let's go into the button itself. Let's go into the CSS. Okay, and then actually I can see what's set in that border here. So where are we? Just make sure we're on the button. Focus visible. Where is border? Border top. Border. That's unusual. Just a sec, see if I remove. Yeah, it doesn't do anything. There must be some other border class below this. But either way, we would have crossed this out. It does change something, but then we have to remove that color. Mm-hmm. Mm. Okay. Interesting. Looks like this is falling outside of the CSS entirely. This doesn't trigger this doesn't trigger this. Yeah, they're different colors actually. Okay, well, back to the CSS then. "35 instances." No, no. And hover and focus and active, border color, current color. Mm. Okay, let's do elimination. I don't think I'm going to make much more progress looking at the CSS. I will do my best guess to see from here the CSS that will be responsible for setting that blue border color. Now I think um, our job is made easy by the fact that we're going to see some blue here and there. First of all, let's remove that. Wait, close that and inspect. I don't recall whether those changes. Okay, yeah, they do stay. Let's remove that. Just going to remove everything that looks like that blue. Keep going. Bulk shadow, border radius. We'll ignore all of those. Okay, now when I right click, cool. So it was one of those two properties, CSS properties. Which one was it? I think it was the second one. I'm going to add the first one back. You can see that's crossed out, probably not doing anything. Right click. Oh, okay. So there we go. And just to see, I want to narrow it down to just one. So remove that one again. Return the second one. Piece color scheme right root. Okay. Seems like they both interesting. Anyway, the property we're looking for, oh, the property we're looking for is dash dash p focused. So same thing here. Is there any difference? 6914325551. Same thing. So I want to find out how this is used in this repository. First of all, no. Second of all, I doubt it. I didn't see any explicit CSS here. Okay, third of all, this is going to give me a lot of results. No, it doesn't. Just 2 issues. So commits. That's a major version. 162 commits. There must be a simpler way to isolate. Will I find it? How can I search these files? There's a significant lag. There we go. Will that search inside the files or just the file names? Yeah, no. No, I didn't mean to close that. Okay, while we're doing this, because my phone is complaining again. Let's close. In fact, I'm just going to close code altogether and ask myself once again, how are they setting the border outline? It has something to do with that class dash dash p focus, but since this is SCSS, I'm not going to be able to find that particular property. I mean, these variables though, these are all just variables. What else are you looking for these variables in the code? So that's all just CSS variables, and they're being used in pfocus. They're being used in the actual CSS. Somewhere, I don't know where. somehow, but I do not know how. I don't see them being used in the actual dot button class anywhere. There is no p focus I can see. There's certainly no p focus on the border colors, p border neutral subdued, unless this is a derivative of, it's not, of p focus. It's not. I'm curious, is there some magical way that they're using p focus without it showing up here? We have our variables, we have, and if I activate focus visible, yeah, this falls outside CSS. If I activate focus instead, there we go. If I activate focus instead, what changes? These variables are being used, and then here these are all still gray. So where is the focus? Mm-hmm. 71422551. Really close, but not exact. Not exact. How about focus visible? huge difference. One 95 to 041, completely different. It's like this thing is defying conventional CSS logic. If that border is currently visible with that color, then there must be a CSS property somewhere here that is setting that border to be visible and to have that color. Removing the border property here does nothing. These do nothing. Oh, they do something, but they don't remove the blue outline. So which border properties are responsible? Can't modify this. These are default properties. Let me see. Okay, then I've been looking in the wrong place all this time. That is not a border. That's something entirely different. And I can't find it in the DOM. Polaris container. What is this? It's not wrapping that button. Here's that button. Data omits P color scheme. ID root. That's completely different. Style, custom properties. None. That's the React root. Then we have the styles, and then we have this, which is not wrapping it. We have anything left now is it a studio element that would look like a lot of stress. What's this? Docs roots. Who are you? Okay, and then you are the color scheme, Polaris container. I want to hide you. Display none. Display none. Hiding you does nothing, so you're not responsible. In fact, delete. Okay. Oh no. on my button, and when I focus, this looks like a what's the word for this? This falls outside the control. Oh, CSS. Well, that's not true. You can modify everything with CSS. This looks like the default focus behavior. No matter what I do, I don't think I can trigger. Let's see. So focusing on my keyboard. That's the unfocus default behavior. So it looks like they just used an unfocus then. If we go back to our button, we should have some. Okay, this is ridiculous. Let's go forward. Let's go to code. React, source, components, button. Looks like the only thing they're bothering to do is to modify the focus states. PC button, that's a Z index. I don't even think they're modifying the color itself. That looks like the okay. Playing on focus. The border has been modified. And just like before when I was looking for whether the border was modified. Border, color. I'm 35 of this. We'll start it again. They are not doing anything at all. That can't be right. I mean, they did modify the Z index. If that's default behavior, then why wasn't mine adopting I'm gonna have to stop here. Spend too much time on this, but I will try and figure this out before I move on, because it seems important. Yeah, it seems important to know how they're controlling that other outline, if they're controlling it at all, and how they're doing it.